I started meditating in 2012, which is 11 years ago now. Crazy. Wow. And it wasn't because I just felt like I needed to find a blissful state. It was because I was struggling so hard in life. I was going through my first big dark night of the soul after a breakup that tore me into a million pieces, and I had no idea how to put myself back together. I had no tools. I didn't know anything about personal development, healing, trauma, nothing. I was a lost ship out on the sea, and I had no compass. And so, for some reason though, I had friends that I knew were going to this Buddhist center in Berlin. And I was living in Berlin at the time, sort of on and off. And obviously they were noticing that I was struggling. And they ended up taking me to this Buddhist center, to one of the events there, one of the talks with the Buddhist teacher there. And that literally saved my life at the time. Yeah, that was massive. I started going every Sunday for a while. I attended a introduction to meditation workshop. And for one, meditation really helped me to understand that I'm not my thoughts, which was a huge insight for me at the time. Because up until that point, I was believing every single thought that was going on in my mind, and there were lots of them. And then through the Buddhist teachings, I also learned about suffering, and that suffering is a natural human condition. And that felt really relieving at the time, because I thought something was wrong with me because I was suffering so hard. And after that, I went traveling again for quite some time, and I discovered this online website. Is it called Dharmaseed? Anyway, it was a website full of Buddhist teachings and meditations by all sorts of meditation teachers around the world. Really cool at the time. And so I started meditating with that website. And, there were no apps out there yet, like Calm or Headspace and all of those that are really popular these days. And there weren't people talking about meditation yet on Instagram. And so it wasn't cool yet. Meditation was definitely not cool yet in 2012. It took a few more years for the world to catch up. And so I didn't feel cool meditating. I did it because my mental and emotional health were a disaster. And I needed something to pull me out of that really intense monkey mind that I had going on all day long. And then in 2014, I want to say, or 15, I went on a 1-month meditation and yoga retreat in Mexico on the Pacific coast I think it was nearby Mazunte. And I don't remember the name of, it was called Hidraya. That's the name of it. And very basic retreat, and all we did was meditate a lot, do yoga, very slow yoga, very meditative yoga. And we had a couple of silent days where we didn't speak at all. And that was a really wonderful experience. That was my first proper meditation retreat experience. And I felt amazing. That was the time I quit smoking cigarettes. I think it was the time I went fully vegan from being vegetarian. And then it didn't take long. It was late 2015 then that I did a yoga and pranayama and meditation teacher training in Bali. And that was amazing as well. We had an amazing meditation teacher, learned a lot. It was basically the first time I properly got in touch with the breath as well through pranayama. And so I was meditating a lot. And I think it was in 2018 or 19. I did like a 30-day meditation challenge that I also documented in a video here on YouTube about meditating every day for an hour. So yeah, I was meditating a lot. And there was even a time where I felt like I wanted to go on a Vipassana retreat. And I spoke to my therapist about this, and we established that my intention for going on a Vipassana retreat was basically to prove to myself that I could be completely independent from anyone else, from talking to anyone, that I could somehow survive on my own, not talking to anyone. And that if I could prove that to myself that I could do that, then I would be happy. Like that was my thinking at the time. This was 2016, 2017. And we then established that it might not be a good idea for me to do that. My issue in life and in terms of trauma had a lot to do with disconnection, feeling lonely, feeling disconnected. And so I realized, thanks to my therapist, that going into a Vipassana retreat might not be the best idea because it might just actually aggravate these issues for me. And that if anything, my healing needed to happen in connection rather than in disconnection. And for me, that was just, poof, okay, wow. So I canceled the Vipassana retreat. I'd actually signed up for one or applied to attend one in Thailand. And then I realized, nope, not now. And then what happened? Yeah, I got into breathwork 2018-ish, 17-ish as well. More and more, started doing trainings 2019, 2020. And that's mainly what I've been doing. And I also did a 9-month meditation teacher training with a really wonderful teacher and mentor, Michael King. Great guy. That was awesome too. And yeah, essentially my work these days sort of combines a lot of different modalities, but mainly I use the breath in lots of different varieties, meditation, mindfulness practices, and somatic practices. So my focus is a lot on how can I use my body to regulate my nervous system, to find a deeper connection to myself, and to find healing, really. And so there's a few things that I realized that I've learned on my journey as a meditator. And I don't want to say I'm, I mean, is there such a thing as the best? Or, I guess some people do. Excuse me, I'm recording over here, Tony. Meditation performance and I guess maybe that's one learning actually, is that it's not about how much you meditate. It's not about the technique that you use. There were times when I was pushing myself really hard to meditate every day for an hour. And I don't meditate for an hour these days. No way. But I needed that at the time, on one hand, because my life was so dysregulated. It was so up and down. I was basically in a constant stress response, going from anxiety down to depression. And so meditation for me was this window in my day, a compartmentalized window in my day where, I could actually feel at peace because I didn't feel that way the other 23 hours of the day. And then I also, as a sort of recovering type A personality, I thought that I had to be a really good meditator, and a good meditator meditates a lot, and a good meditator goes onto a Vipassana retreat. And I know now that there is no such thing as a good or a bad meditator, that it's not about the amount of time that you sit on your mat meditating, that it's not about how many retreats you've been on. It's about what does meditation do for you and to you outside of your sitting practice. And I think that in many ways, meditation is viewed as a way, like I do meditation in order to. I do meditation in order to deal better with stress or to calm my mind and so on. And that's okay. I mean, that's what gets a lot of people into meditation in the first place, because usually there's maybe a struggle, and which was, my case as well. But I've come to realize that meditation is not about performance. It's not about reaching a goal. It's not about enlightenment. It's not about reaching a blissful state. I've come to realize that meditation is all about finding a connection to myself and nurturing that relationship with myself and with the present moment and the life as it's happening right now. And that doesn't mean I have to sit on my cushion for an hour every day. For me, it means taking what I learn on the mat, that connection there that I establish with myself, with my body, and being able to integrate that as I go about my day and live my life. And so, as I've experimented with a ton of meditation techniques and really experimented with all sorts of different methods, these days I just sit and I do nothing. I simply sit and I listen. I listen to my thoughts, listen to the activity in my mind. I listen to my body, and I listen to what it's telling me, and I feel all the sensations that are going on within my body, and I connect to my breath. And that is it. That's it. There's no technique needed anymore. And that feels really freeing, actually. Yeah, so do nothing meditation. It's my favorite. And I do sometimes do some guided meditations, but mainly it's about just sitting with myself and my body. Which brings me to my next point, is that a lot of the guided meditations out there, they focus heavily on the mind and controlling our thoughts. And while that might be really important in the beginning, for example, Sam Harris's app called, I don't remember, I haven't used it in a while, but I spent a lot of money on like a yearly membership a while back. And I was really disappointed because I noticed that a lot of the meditations on the meditation app, he's got some amazing, I think it's called Waking Up, that's it. He's got some amazing teachers, really well-known teachers. And what I realized, though, as I was doing a lot of those meditations, is that they were mainly geared towards the mind. And I'm like, wait a second. After having been practicing breathwork for so long and really connecting deeply to my body, I was like, hold on. So now I've managed to feel at home in my body again. And I really enjoy being with my body and connecting to my body and its sensations. Now you all want me to hang out in my mind again and do mantras and all sorts of things. And it just didn't make sense anymore. And I was looking for teachers on the app that would mainly focus on the body and do somatic meditations. And I couldn't really find many. And there's one here and there, but I would say it's mainly 80-90% of the app and all the meditations on there are geared towards the mind, dealing with the mind. And if I had known this sooner, that the solution to presence, the solution to inner calm wasn't actually to be found in my mind, but in my body, gosh, I could have saved myself a lot of suffering and just struggles with meditation. I mean, I struggled so hard with meditation for so long, on and off. It's not like I always enjoyed meditating. Absolutely not. Meditation was, especially in the beginning, it was really hard. But also, I mean, when I say I meditated for an hour every day, that hour sometimes was just pure, just struggle. It was really hard. It was really difficult. And I didn't have the tools back then that I have now, or the connection to my body. And so trying to calm the mind with the mind is like mission impossible. And once I learned more and more about the breath and about somatic meditation, this world opened up to me, and suddenly meditation became so much easier. And so, yeah, that's another good point here is the breath. Sitting down and meditating is actually really hard to do for these modern humans in the 21st century. You know, such active minds, active lives, and we operate mainly in our sympathetic branch of the nervous system, and there's just so much going on. And then we want to sit down and we want to calm our minds with the mind. And of course we're going to struggle. Of course we're going to struggle. Of course I struggled. Of course maybe you also struggle with meditation. And you find it really hard to just sit still even for 2 or 5 minutes. I get it. Now here is where the magic comes in, because the breath is, in my opinion, the ultimate key to calm our minds, especially before meditation. So instead of sitting down and then expecting your mind to calm down and to enjoy meditation, I suggest you sit down, you do some breathing practices, slow down your breath, maybe do some coherence breathing, diaphragmatic breathing, and then you do that for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, and then you just stay seated and drop into meditation. And you'll notice that because now your breath is calm, your mind is a lot calmer as well. And that helps you to actually sit in meditation much easier and actually enjoy it a lot more. And, it makes sense that the yogis, first they do their asanas, their physical asanas on the mat, and they get their body ready for meditation. And then they do breathing practices, pranayama, and then they meditate, whereas we're just like, oh, I'm just going to sit down and meditate. Yeah, I feel like we got that backwards. So breathe before you meditate makes a huge difference. Coming back to more is better, or actually more meditation is not better. I see a lot of people meditating a lot, and that was the case with me as well back then. It can really be a coping mechanism, can be a coping strategy because our lives are so busy, like mine was, and just so full of all sorts of things, and a dysregulated nervous system, that, we need the meditation to get a break from that life that we live. And now, my practice is maybe 10, 20 minutes a day. But the other 23 hours and 40 minutes, out of which 8 or 9 hours I'm asleep. So the other whatever, 13 hours, my life is not that crazy anymore. I'm a lot more mindful in how I go about my day. I take breaks during the day to breathe consciously, to connect to my body. It's something that has become a part of me, mindfulness. And so, whereas before I was only really connected to myself during the time I was sitting on the mat meditating, now I'm connected to myself most of the time as I go about my day. Of course, there's always moments where I'm not as connected. That's normal. Dissociation is something that we do, right? And it doesn't have to be unhealthy. And that for me, is way more important than sitting on a mat for an hour every day so that I can cope with the rest of my life. And so, yeah, I know it sounds cheesy and cliche, but I think the goal of meditation really is to make our entire life one meditation. And but what I mean by that is really, if I was to define meditation for myself, it's connecting to my body, connecting to myself and to my present moment experience, connecting to my emotions, connecting to whatever state I'm in, and just sitting and listening and feeling what's there, allowing everything to be there. I'm not trying to bypass anything with a technique. I'm not trying to make myself feel better on purpose. I'm just sitting and being with what's present. And if that is anger or sadness or just discomfort or, pain or tension or not wanting to sit and meditate or be present with my body, then that's what I tune into. And it's not about meditating anything away. It's about learning to be with everything that's here within me right now in my experience. And that is not easy for a lot of people for good reason. And God, I wish I'd known this, at the beginning of my journey. So many of us have experienced trauma. So many of us have learned to disconnect from our bodies and from our somatic experience because at some point in our lives, it didn't feel safe. And we had experiences where we learned that it was safer to disconnect, to dissociate, and to not feel our emotions. We learned to suppress them and to distract ourselves from them. And so for the longest time in my life as well, that was the case. And for many of us, we just don't have the capacity yet to truly be with our somatic, emotional experience. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with you. And the journey is not to force ourselves to meditate more, meditate better, try out all these techniques and modalities. What's helped me was to work with a somatic practitioner, a somatic psychotherapist, also doing a lot of breath work, but to find a place within myself where I felt safe, to resource myself, to create capacity to actually feel safe to connect to my body and all of its sensations and all of its emotions. And that was a process. It didn't happen overnight, but it's been one of the most healing things that I could have ever done for myself. Yeah, and so my current practice these days is very simple. I sit, I listen to my body, I feel the sensations in my body, and then I breathe. I usually do a combination or one or the other of coherence breathing, reduced breathing, box breathing, triangle breathing, simple stuff, really. And then I go about my day. And then I take my day and a lot of moments throughout my day as opportunities to keep checking in with myself, to connect to my body, connect to my breath, connect to my emotions, and allow everything to be there. And that has turned out to be the best meditation of my life. And I have my teacher, little Tony, over here. A little pup. She's the best meditator, always in the now. All right, friends, that's it. That's all I wanted to share about my experience with meditation for 11 years. Wow. I actually think the goal of meditation is to not have to meditate anymore. It's like the goal of breathwork, of daily breathing practice, is to not have a daily breathing practice. So, yeah. See you soon. Thanks for tuning in. Have fun meditating or not. See ya.